Hi, my name's Jordan Marshall and I'm Special Projects Editor at Building Magazine. I'd love to welcome you all to this session today. It's one I'm really excited to be involved in. It's all about the role of data interoperability in the fourth industrial revolution. Just a little bit of housekeeping from me before I introduce our wonderful panel and hand over to them. The first thing that we always get asked in these sessions is yes, it will be available on demand from about 30 minutes to an hour after the session ends via the exact same link you join in now. So please feel free to flag it to any colleagues, rewatch to catch up on anything. It will be there free on demand for 12 months. Secondly, we really want to hear from you and get you involved in today's discussion. So please send through those questions anytime. We'll try and cover off as many of them as we can. Okay, I'm going to introduce our speakers for today. First up, we have Ben Wallbank, BIM Strategy and Partnerships Manager at Trimble Viewpoint.
Hello.
We have Anthony Abenawe, Director of Global Partnerships, Public Sector and Education at Microsoft. We have Tim Fang, Director, Global ISV Partner Development at Microsoft, and Christopher Keating, SVP Strategy at Trimble. That's probably enough for me to kick things off. So I'm going to hand over to Ben, who's going to lead the discussion. But as I said, we do want to get your audience cues in, so please send through as many as you want.
Yeah. So this one really comes from me saying, well, you know, we've actually had this partnership for quite a while between Trimble and Microsoft. So actually from November 2018, and it's a strategic partnership that's going on over a number of years. And I know that customers, some of our customers in Trimble are starting to see some of the sort of more obvious advantages. So there are things like Office 365 coming into a whole variety of our products in its full version. You know, so in Viewpoint for Projects, you can have the security that the CD offers you, plus the ease of use of 365, etc., etc. But that's kind of not what this is really about. And I thought it was very important that everybody starts to understand some of these bigger issues that I'm aware, because of some of the stuff that's going on in the background, are really exciting and which should inform why this kind of partnership is important. So I'm going to kick off by asking a high-level question to both parties. And important for me to say thanks ever so much to both Microsoft and to our HQ out in Westminster, Colorado, for for being involved in this and helping to let everybody know what's going on. So I'm going to start off by asking why Microsoft and Trimble have decided to partner. So who wants to go first? Do you want to go first, Chris?
I can start, yeah, and with a very, I guess, a slight correction on the history of the partnership, Ben, and no worries for not knowing this. I just lived it. But our trusted partnership goes back to 2015, 2016 at least, and we have a proven history and a cadence of not just partnering with Microsoft. Microsoft has lots of partners, but also co-developing with Microsoft or building with Microsoft. So I came to Trimble via the SketchUp acquisition from Google in 2012. And I remember in 2015 or so, the Trimble SketchUp team started working with Microsoft to launch an application in conjunction with the initial release of Microsoft HoloLens. So we had a lockdown conference room, 24/7 surveillance, and we were working on an application that would be ready for the launch of the HoloLens itself. So. And in fact, I think Trimble launched the first commercial application on that HoloLens platform back in, maybe it was 2016. I don't remember the exact date. So the point is the partnership goes back a long ways, and it's a proven, trusted partnership of working together and actually launching things together and co-marketing and working with common customers together. Then you're right. In 2018, we stepped up the partnership another level. Now it's more in the strategic alliance kind of category, where Trimble's a top partner of Microsoft. And the reason, the simplest high-level reason why the partnership, why does 1 + 1 = 3 in this case, is because Trimble has very strong domain expertise in industries like construction, geospatial, transportation, and agriculture. I know we're focused on construction today, but this partnership spans all the industries that Trimble serves. That domain experience, combined with Microsoft's cloud excellence and strong they're a very strong digital partner in the world for us. We believe that overlap is a much stronger entity in the world for our common customers. And I don't know, Tim or Anthony, if you want to add anything to that.
First of all, no, thank you so much
Yeah.
for having us, Anthony Bunaway. So I totally agree, Chris. I think the partnership started with innovation in the forefront, looking to really answer the customer's needs. And for Microsoft to be able to do that, we need to go through our partners and work through our partners. And the ability to build and innovate on top of the industry expertise that Trimble has within the market, the understanding of the customer's needs and demand, it allows us to leverage our solutions and our tools to be able to address those thoughtfully. So the partnership starting back in 2016 within the cusp of innovation, I think is really how relationships and partnerships start off with success. And that's what I've seen with this partnership across Microsoft and Trimble, as we first started with answering the customer's needs and the customer's problems, and then taking that to market together. And the future of where this partnership is heading and where it can go, I think with the advent of AI and leveraging the mass amount of data that Trimble is hosting within our infrastructure, allows us to build unique solutions that are really forward leading to the future of construction and within the industry as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Anthony. Appreciate it. If I talk about the three main pillars of the partnership, it's first of all, it's leading with trust, right? And this is part of our partnership value proposition, why we're stronger together for our customers. We lead with trust. Trust is everything in this world, especially when we talk about data, right? When we say data, it's usually the customer's data, and we have to be good stewards of the data. So we're operationalizing trust in everything we do at Trimble and everything we do with this partnership. I'm sure that Microsoft is as well. We want to help guide this generational transformation, the digital transformation of industries like construction in this case, or geospatial plus construction, maybe, if I may. And then we want to empower the physical world. What we're doing at Trimble and together with Microsoft it's about real assets in the real world, whether it be a bridge for a bridge, a road, or a building, or a plant. It's all about getting an asset built or improved as efficiently as possible. And that's so when we talk about things like data and an industrial metaverse, we're talking about the real world, not a virtual world or a cartoony kind of world, right? It's about the real world. So leading with trust to guide our customers through this generational digital transformation, and then empowering the physical world, right? Being more efficient with real physical assets in the world.
Tim, have you anything to add to that at all?
No, I think both Chris and also Anthony covered very well. And the only thing I can echo here is with amazing partnership between Trimble and Microsoft, we can only expect this partnership going to go to the next level. And more importantly, to serve Trimble and Microsoft's joint customers and also the partners around the globe. And so far, we see amazing collaboration at the different regions around the globe already. And with this webinar, and we're very confident to really share that amazing effort and also get the feedback from our customers and partners and to further elevate that collaboration. Back to you, Ben.
Yeah, I guess two more. Sorry, I'm trying not to do too much talking here, Ben. Two more aspects of the partnership. It has a build with component, right? One of the reasons that excites us about Microsoft is their long history in office productivity software, and coming from, let's say a point product company to a platform company and rallying around the cloud. So we can build with, we can build with Microsoft Teams Office 365, as you mentioned earlier, I think with Viewpoint for projects, we can do those types of integrations and those types of interoperabilities. Power Platform, that long history of Microsoft products there, which they're now platforming and moving to the cloud. We have the opportunity as Trimble to integrate those with Trimble products when and as they make sense to make our customers more efficient. So there's this build with concept, and then there's also a combined go-to-market concept where we co-market together and we help our customers be successful together around the world, right? And Microsoft has many partners around the world, as does Trimble, in regions to help them, where they are. So we think globally and act locally, even more so with Microsoft as a partner.
As we head towards a more sort of fluid world of data with huge data sets that one can analyze, how important is it to Microsoft that Trimble is not just a single sector? So, here we are, we're all in the construction industry talking about construction, but we're also strong in transport and agriculture and geospatial information. Is this part of the attraction to Microsoft?
Of course, right? Like the title of this conversation is data interoperability, right? And I think it really goes back to the conversation Chris was having around trust. Your customers trust that you're going to be able to allow them to connect and identify issues quickly and collaborate effectively. And all the platforms that Chris identified, Office 365, Power BI, and the suite of Microsoft products really enforce or allow collaboration to live in its finest with the level of trust across that data. So when you're talking about collaborating across the different sectors of construction or geospatial, there's so many areas to connect into. And one of the great things about Microsoft products is that we're really good at integration. I think we're probably the best at integration. Integrating different data sets, integrating different products to be able to allow collaboration to be within the forefront of the working force. So I would say, yes, it's extremely important for us to be able to allow these tools to come together and to collaborate so that we can empower the workforce to save time, save money, and support more of the needs within the industry.
Great. So we've had sorry, go on.
No, I think I would just add that if you know Trimble, which I hope everybody does on this webinar, if you know Trimble, you know that we have a 45+ year history, starting with advanced positioning, GPS advanced positioning and geospatial, and then getting into survey and survey equipment. And because of that history, we have field technology hardware, very sophisticated field technology hardware, even in the construction space, things like, laser scanners to produce point clouds, robotic total stations, machine control. We can autonomously drive construction equipment on a site to build a road, for example. And if you think about kind of owning the rails between the field and the office, or the physical world and the digital world, that hardware portfolio that we have is very unique to Trimble, I think, in the world, right? To bring that data back, what's supposed to happen with the asset in the field if it hasn't started yet, or what is happening with the asset in the field, what's the as-built status, and then be able to inform the digital twin or the whole project simulation back in the office or in the digital world. So when we talk about data coming together and information coming together, Trimble plus Microsoft, I think we're in a really unique spot as a company to connect the physical world back to the digital world, and vice versa, right? Depending on the status of the project.
Okay, so we've had our first question in. Can I encourage everybody to type any questions? And this is one from Jay Palmer, and it's slightly vague. So you say, Jay, are there issues around data? So I'm just going to make an assumption that you're talking about security, or perhaps
Hi Ben, sorry, it's just Jordan. If you click on the question, you'll be able to read it in full. That's just the first line.
I could have guessed
that
what
makes a
the
lot more
issues
sense
were.
now. Thank you very much. User error. Forgive me. So, Jay, that's a much better question than I thought it was. Yeah, you say, are there issues around data ownership and open competition, or is this an unresolved issue? Who would like to pick that one up?
Yeah, when the question was vague, I know that it got more specific. There's definitely issues around data. There's plenty of them, right? There's data sovereignty issues. There's security. There's trust issues. That's another reason for Trimble's partnership with Microsoft, that very strong digital partner, because they have lots of resources going into Azure security, performance, trust, and all that. So yes, there's lots of data issues that are, and they're not all resolved necessarily. They're all are to be resolved, and to be resolved as the world changes. More and more countries, for example, want their even their construction data and their infrastructure construction data to stay within the bounds of the country. That's a data sovereignty issue. And that's something that Microsoft has helped us solve in at least one case, and will continue to do so going forward. So remind me of the specifics of that question again.
Data ownership, which I think you've just dealt with.
Data ownership, yeah, I think most times the data will belong to the customer, right? Unless they give us or Microsoft or us and Microsoft express permission to use that data, right? We have to be good stewards of the data, and yes, we'll host it, but we won't hold it hostage for, yeah. So we have to be good data stewards there. I think there was a data interoperability question vis-a-vis competition or classic competition.
Yeah, so and also about sort of.
Yeah, I would say that our philosophy and actually it's a strategic kind of imperative is to be open with our products and with our data, open APIs, open SDKs. Because if you work backwards from the customer, the number one request always has something to do with interoperability, right? And because we live in capitalist societies and compete with each other, healthy competition, that shouldn't impact the customer experience to whatever extent possible. So we're open, even to whoever you would think of as classic competitors to Trimble. I know Microsoft's the same way. They're supportive of multi-platform environments. Kind of have to meet the customer where they are. But I don't want to speak for Anthony and Microsoft.
No, definitely. I think you're 100% right. That's the biggest goal for us, is meeting with the customer where they are, whether it's hybrid, whether it's on-prem, or even in the cloud. And really, I think Microsoft does a great job at putting security in the forefront of how we go to market and how we build across leveraging data. We probably own probably the most data centers across all of the cloud providers to be able to make sure that we're securing that data effectively. And the ownership, like Chris identified, staying with the partners and the customers to be able to leverage their data and own their data securely. I think that's in the forefront. Again, going back to that level of trust. We want
exactly
that as we are partnering with companies like Trimble, we're standing in the forefront of trust, specifically with security.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you're not a good steward of other people's data, that trust will erode rapidly, right?
Would I be right in saying this is a sort of multi-layered, onion of problems and difficulties? Yeah. So down at product level, kind of level that I'm used to, for instance, Viewpoint for Projects, we've just been getting DART accreditation from the Ministry of Defense, which is one of the sort of key security accreditations right down at that level. But this must go on and on right the way through into the data ocean world, and
it's a constantly changing landscape. That's what I was trying to say, that
and I would say Microsoft's at the forefront of that, right? Really helping our partners to lead in the most compliant way. If you look at the security requirements associated to our clouds, right? We have multiple levels of security and compliance across our clouds. We have Azure, for sovereignty. We have Azure Commercial that holds a level of security requirements. And we also have Azure Government for our U.S. federal business. We've even extended our investments into classified clouds as well globally. So we're, I believe, leading in the forefront of making sure that we're creating a secure cloud for our customers and our partners.
Yeah, yeah. And even you talk about peeling an onion kind of, and even when we talk about data, the definition, I think, for construction is pretty broad and wide ranging. So when we talk about data for construction, we would talk about point clouds as data, geometry as data, attributes on, attached to that geometry as data, files as data, ERP, labor, equipment, material data, right? So all that data coming together. Yeah.
So I've got a great question here from Richard Saxon. Hi, Richard. He says, we use common data environments. Nice to know that he says environments rather than environment. So that's obviously shows how knowledgeable Richard is. And he just asked quite a specific question, which is, will Viewpoint and SharePoint relate to each other? So that's kind of a product-led question. So I might just answer that a little bit myself, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it, because you're
So the answer, of course, is yes. And so the ability now with the 365 integration into Viewpoint for Projects to have information shared and worked on collaboratively in the cloud in the way that we're all used to doing on SharePoint, but with those layers of security based on your role or your company or who you are or your security group, etc. It is now already there. And you'll see this increasingly coming in over time, where I think on information container, i.e. file-based level, we're pretty good on that already. I think where it becomes more interesting is in this bigger issue for data more generally. So we already say, yes, all your data relating to your projects is housed on UK servers, but we do send some information about you as a customer to Trimble in the States. So obviously, you've already got this idea that there's information which is being held by us which doesn't have the same level of security. And as we go on, and again, the others on the call are far better to talk about this than I am, really. But as we go on, I can see that the kinds of levels of security that we are already able to impose on a file, on an information container, will have to be able to be imposed on data, on specific pieces of data as well. And I guess this is the direction we'll have to go. What do you guys think? Have I just talked rubbish?
No, I think that's right. Yeah, I would just add that the access controls, or controlling who accesses that data or the files in this case, it should be left to the customer, to the user, right? Not to Trimble, not to Microsoft.
Yeah, so we're going to have some customer-facing tools which allow the control of security on your data. So at the moment, just an example for a moment, if you're the Ministry of Justice and you have a prison, you have to model all of your cameras, security cameras for the prison in a separate model, because we're not capable yet within Revit or whatever, or ArchiCAD, or, I'm not using any particular tool here, not yet capable within those tools to set security on the specific pieces of data.
Yeah. I think Richard had another, was it Richard who asked the question, I think? Another good point in there where he made common data environments plural, because again, if you look at from a customer standpoint, we're all working on common data environments. But if you're the customer, you're getting a common data environment or a CDE from this company, from this company, from this company. And before you know it, they're not all that common, right? The data environments. So it was apt to point out or to make that plural, common data environments. And I think we as an industry, this goes back to interoperability of data. We need to do a good job of connected data environments, right? Still CDE, but let's switch it to connected over common, because I'm not sure much is going to be common when everybody has one, right? And everybody might do it slightly differently. And by everybody, I mean industry participants from the technology side.
I think another big piece there is also identity. As we start to really focus on identity, that allows us to really build these stealth models to formulate what are the rights of the user and what access points they have there as well. So I think one of the biggest things to focus on is building a stable identity foundation within the organization.
There is a really long and detailed question here from Peter Chalakis. Apologies, Peter, if I pronounce your surname wrong as well. I'm doing well today. So the question is, the lack of real property owner leadership, competency and accountability, and failure to implement robust processes are the fundamental issues causing rampant financial and environmental waste. Technology is certainly an enabler, but not the solution. How are Trimble and Microsoft addressing this core issue? For example, a detailed line item scope of work using granular local market labor, material equipment, productivity data is a major failure point. So that's kind of a long question, but I think I get the drift. Does somebody want to? Chris, do you want to?
Or Anthony, did you catch that? That was or Ben, if you could summarize.
Okay, so
I was trying to follow.
So from my point of view, I guess this is what ISO 19650 and the need to start identifying your client requirements very clearly in a master information delivery program as a response to an EIR in a master information delivery program. In other words, a whole tree of information requirements where one line in an EIR may become multiple lines in a master information delivery plan, and then in your supply chain supplying you that information, maybe a whole bunch of further lines. This is the kind of thing that we've been talking about in the gig in the UK, in the government's industry interoperability group, and trying to work out how we're getting this kind of thing to work. So I think what I would say to Peter is yeah, it's you're right to identify this as a problem, but I think the industry is at least starting to address this, and I guess how you then do this with these huge data sets is an ongoing issue.
Yeah, I think I guess a high level answer to that from my standpoint is I think what leads to inefficiency and waste and safety issues and productivity issues in construction is that the collaboration comes kind of way too late while we're building, right? And if we can get teams connected, entire project teams connected, engineers, architects, owners, contractors, earlier in the process, and all operating around the same canonical set of data, so everybody making decisions around the same data earlier, then that would naturally lead to less waste, less safety issues, less higher efficiencies and higher productivities. That was a very detailed question, though, so I'm not sure that high-level answer is going to be satisfactory to Peter. But if I kept it high level, I would say that we need to shift the industry left, so to speak. If you picture an effort curve from design all the way through construction and ownership.
Chris, you're bringing up a great point. Again, going back to that level of collaboration, and when I look at the construction industry, data is supposed to drive action. And the major challenge is really identifying all the actions have been taken, and their shared responsibilities are identified as well. This is where I get so excited about artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence, whatever you want to identify it as. I see it as a level of really taking that data and supporting us in applying action on top of that data, really making sense to really call out what action needs to be driven. And it really drives a level of productivity that is really gravitating a lot of attention within the industry today, as we can see, right? But as we have this partnership evolve and as we start integrating artificial intelligence into these solutions, I think it's going to allow us to increase productivity in a mass scale and within construction. It's going to allow us to decrease fraud and waste in a mass level, because it's going to bring the element of action on top of data. So that's one of the areas where I'm super excited about integrating our partnership and leading our partnership into. And again, I'm not sure if I answered the question directly either, but it really got me excited to think about how we can apply AI to solve this problem today.
It's an exciting question, yeah. And Anthony and Ben and everybody listening, I will admit, back in 2018, when we were talking about the scope of this partnership and inking this partnership, we thought about a lot of things, right? We thought about, we can integrate the Power BI platform or the Teams platform to this Trimble product for our customers, or we can integrate, do something with Dynamics. We can launch a construction industry cloud on Azure. We thought about all that stuff, right? But one thing we didn't think about back at that time, was this Gen AI world that we're in now. But I have to say that we at Trimble are thanking our lucky stars that we decided to partner with Microsoft, and the world should be thanking their lucky stars as well, because you seem to be leading in that space, right? In the whole Azure OpenAI space, and now that's even more things that we can leverage with this partnership for the benefit of our customers and for the benefit of more positive outcomes for our customers.
So does this mean the large software houses like Trimble in partnership with Microsoft will leverage the advantages of big data before the smaller software houses? And if so, what advantage might that give you?
Could you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering whether partnerships like this would be the way to start answering these questions, so that using software, in other words, the big houses. So we've got obviously us partnering with you, and we've got Oracle and Bentley buying multiple softwares as well. Is the answer to the big data question likely to come from the big houses, or are we still going to see the small, lean and mobile, perhaps?
Yeah, I'm certainly no expert, but I would say that the answer is yes, right? The big houses as you call them, have an advantage at the moment because of the amount of resources it takes to do these things and do these things quickly. I'm talking about the Gen AI world, right? And there's probably not a better partner that we could have again, we didn't foresee this honestly back in 2018, but there's not a better partner that we could have chosen for things like the Azure OpenAI. They're integrating Gen AI in pretty much everything now. The world hasn't seen it all yet. It'll come out, but Anthony,
I think it's the power of AI really comes from the data. Right. It comes from the information. And the beautiful part about this partnership is the information that Trimble provides to its customers, and the ability to understand the full life cycle of the industry. So to leverage the data in that way allows us to answer unique problems for the customer. And I don't believe Microsoft could do that by itself. We've tried, and if you look at the way Microsoft looks to go to market, is actually through our partners and our partnerships. So answering these problems through Trimble is the best way for us to drive efficiency because of the unique level of that data and the unique level of the challenges within the industry.
So we've had a number of questions coming in on interoperability generally, and some of them are at sort of one level and some are at another. So from my perspective, I've been involved in some of the building smart initiatives in IFC and BCF down at sort of one level. I'm just interested, I take it that we've got exactly the same problems with interoperability, even between server farms on Google or AOL or or Microsoft. Are these problems really at every level in terms of how you get interoperability?
Anthony, I think that was a question more for interoperability between the big cloud service providers, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. I think, right?
Well, I think when we look at data ingestion, that's something that's been a problem or a challenge. I wouldn't say a problem, but a challenge to solve for many years. And I think it's becoming less of a challenge as we walk into this new generation of AI. So what I'm seeing is the main thing we need to make sure is that our customers own their data and have the ability to pull and move their data as needed. And that's the priority of Microsoft. The priority is that we are living in a multi-cloud environment, and we understand that there are going to be different levers to manage the cloud. And we are built in a way that allows that to happen organically and authentically. So the movement of data, I believe, again, as I talked about earlier, I think what Microsoft does best is integration. We're really good at integrating our products across the stacks. So I don't see a challenge for Microsoft in accomplishing that, because, again, we want to make sure that our customers and our partners have full rights and ownership to their data.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was just going to say the concept of interoperability. I ran the SketchUp, well, I won't even say the SketchUp business at Trimble, but the architecture division at Trimble, which was largely the SketchUp team for 8 or so years before taking on this role. And the number one customer request around the world was all about interoperability, right? Can SketchUp work better with Revit, with Autodesk's Revit, for example? Interoperability is an international term at this point. So it's a big issue, and something we need to continue to try and address, right? If you talk about inefficiencies in the construction industry, a lot of them come during these handoffs, as they're called in the industry, like between the architect and the engineer, or engineer contractor. There's always a kind of in some cases, there's a rip it up and start over almost from scratch, right? Because of the lack of interoperability at that handoff, right? So now I think with data and the shifting left that I was saying earlier, and with the cloud, we have an opportunity to not only do better handoffs, but dare I say, maybe eliminate handoffs someday. And it's just one continuous process from start to finish. And everybody, again, is operating and making decisions on the same data.
And I love that, Chris, the aspect of eliminating handoffs, right? I think that's something our partnership can really put into the forefront of achieving.
Yeah.
Really making action on top of data and helping users to take action on top of data, make more sense out of the data. How about if we're more predictive and prescriptive associated to that information for users? That's something that both within this partnership, I'm sure we can achieve.
And I just from my perspective, I've got a long-standing interest and commitment to open data standards. But what I would say is it's not one thing; it's a whole bunch of different things. You've got IFCs and BCF for dealing with topics on things. You've got recently working on the code of practice for the gig. How you transfer information between CDEs becomes an issue, and then you've got the open CDE standards coming along from Building Smart and so on. So my observation is, this is an ongoing problem at many levels that is being worked on and is being solved, albeit not as fast as the industry might like to see. Would be my sort of take on that. I don't know whether you feel that AI is going to somehow just solve this problem, but
listen, we're in the age or the time where everybody thinks AI is going to solve all the problems.
early days, yeah.
But I would say we have solved these problems, and we're solving these problems in other industries as well. If we look at financial service, that is something that's been in the forefront across the past decade as we look at payments and transactions. And mostly we're talking about peer-to-peer networks that we're supporting here. So I do believe that this is a challenge that industry will solve for within construction. I believe that technology's evolution will allow us to get there with velocity. So, I think these are problems that it takes partnerships to make work. And as we look at Microsoft and Trimble, it started off with a concept of building and solving problems first. So if we take that into the focus as we continue this relationship, I believe that by the end of this decade, we'll be surprised at what Trimble is able to lead across this industrial metaverse. We see a future that we all want to live in, and it takes companies like Trimble to guide us into that future. So
Yeah.
will AI answer that for us? Maybe, but I definitely think it's going to take the smart people on this call and listening to this session as well to be able to answer those for some.
Yeah, it's definitely going to take a village. Yeah.
I've got a lovely question here.
And speaking of the village, I'll just add that if we extend partnerships out to the open geospatial consortiums and Building Smart International, like you mentioned, Ben, we need to do that as well. Not just us and Microsoft, but all industry participants, and we support them at the highest level. And I think they have an exciting future when we talk about AI and generative AI as well. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I think the future is bright for organizations like that to pull us all together in an open data, open standards kind of way.
There's a lovely question here from Ross Williamson, who's a trainee building surveyor at Thomson Gray. And he says, what advice would you give to students and those starting out in the industry? What resources would you consider crucial to learn? That's a great question.
Do you want to go? I had a kind of a cheeky answer using since we're probably talking to a primary UK audience. Yeah. I was going to say prompt engineering. All right, it all comes down to the prompts at this point. Yeah, I think in general, I have a daughter who's going to be a sophomore at Wisconsin here in the U.S. and she's in the School of Journalism, right? And I don't know how to feel about that. I definitely don't have the heart to tell her that where journalism might go in this world of large language models. No idea really, but I think I fundamentally believe that if you understand the technology and then apply it to whatever career, whatever persona you're going to be in the world, you can be 10x that person, right? It doesn't mean the job's going away. It just means that if you leverage everything available to you, you can probably run circles around your peers and be a 10x or a 100x journalist than the previous generation of journalists. You know what I mean? I think if the question was around going into construction or the tech side of construction? If it's the tech side of construction, yeah, I think prompts are important. I think we're finding that like for software engineers, these are early days, but senior software engineers are more productive with things like Copilot, GitHub Copilot, and junior engineers are less productive because there's a shift at play where code reviewing becomes more important than coding, right? Because the coding happens more automatically now, and it takes a senior person to be a good code reviewer. Kind of like when we're writing something with large language models, you get output, but then it's more about the editing than the initial drafting, right? So you got to think of those types of trends, I guess. I'm not sure if this is answering the spirit of the gentleman's question, but yeah, definitely pay attention to the trends early on and get some insights there, and give the next generation some good advice coming into the industry. Yeah, I don't know, Anthony, do you have anything to add? I think that's a great question that, I mean, really nobody knows the answers. All you can do is make some extrapolations from the early data, over the last couple of months.
I totally agree, Chris. I think you highlighted prompt engineering. We've heard that term used so many times throughout this year, and definitely something to continue to put attention towards. I wouldn't disagree there. For young people, I think the best thing they can do is really just getting into the industry as soon as possible. I think internships and apprenticeships should be back in the forefront of their strategy in developing understanding of what they want to do, of developing understanding of the industry and those roles. Like you said, Chris, as long as they have the ability to understand the technology, matching that with experience gives them the ability to understand how to potentially problem solve. So one of the biggest things I look to promote for young students is just to gain a better understanding of problem solving, and then really pushing them to find internships and apprenticeships as soon as possible so that they could get a good gauge of where they're skilled. So the technology is going to continue to evolve. They definitely need to stay disciplined within developing those skill sets. But I would really push and motivate young high schoolers specifically to find internships or apprenticeships that they can get their hands dirty and work directly within the field. So I think that definitely goes into a level of construction. You want to really understand the full life cycle of the industry as much as possible.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head with problem solving. That's a good learned skill that can do no wrong for anybody in any industry, right?
So I do a bit of lecturing at some of the master's courses around the UK and in BIM and so on. And my sort of observation is you're really lucky to be young now because things are moving so fast.
Yeah.
And certainly, even if you'd asked me back, at the Bartlett back in the 1980s, with my rotoring pens and parallel motion drawing, if the industry would be even where it is now, I would have found it hard to grasp.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm seeing with the younger generation is that you are much more capable of accommodating this fast speed of change, I think, than we were. Mm-hmm. There seems to be much more fluidity of thinking, and maybe that's because you've grown up with more digital tools and so on. I don't know, but I think flexibility is vitally important, and
and be a lifelong learner too.
Lifelong learner.
I still am.
Yeah. So one of the questions from my goodness me, Prathamesh, forgive me again, is what role does big data analytics play in data operability for various types of risk management? Depending on the projects that the partners are working on, also what are the biggest challenges faced while adopting big data analytics? That's maybe the challenges of big data analytics. I see that for both of you, Chris and Anthony. Who wants to go first?
So the question is, what are the challenges data analytics can could you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
I guess at a simple level, it's what are the major challenges of big data analytics, and then there's a specific one about dealing with types of risk management. So that would be more specific to the construction industry, I would guess.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with data analytics is getting clean data. I think that's one of the number one challenge. Let's make sure that we have clean data, structured data, and that allows us then to be able to make sense and be able to then have the interoperability live effectively. So that's I will say one of the biggest areas to make sure we have a good understanding of is just how we can leverage partners like Microsoft to be able to help build that infrastructure appropriately.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I would go back to my previous answer where if we can get teams pre-visualizing the product before a shovel hits the ground, so to speak, and building everything once virtually, the whole team, it leads to less waste, less safety risks, more certainty as you progress with the project. And then I also think that there's an opportunity someday for both, for all participants in the construction industry, including the tech industry, to include more and more insurance type companies and bonding type companies, and lower rates for insurance through big data, and that kind of presents itself as higher margins for the people working on the projects themselves, whether they're architects or engineers or the contractors themselves or the owners. I don't know exactly how that plays out, but I think that was the spirit of the question. There's going to be a big opportunity with big data to reduce, to do a better job with risk management, therefore higher margins, less insurance premiums, claims, those types of things. I think that was the spirit of the question.
Yeah,
it's hard to know. We can't see the audience and see not
here's one from Kirsty Connell from Tetra Tech. I guess looking at this is a quite specific viewpoint for projects question, but I'm going to widen it out a little bit. So she says, is there going to be a collaboration between Microsoft and Trimble, specifically viewpoint for projects, where API connectivity will be introduced to allow automated processes? So before I widen it out, I'll just answer, I guess, a specific DFP question and say we're in the process of renewing our API at the moment onto a more modern way of doing things, and that will be out in the short-term roadmap. So you'll see these changes quite shortly. But I want to widen that question out. Chris, this is probably one for you more than anybody else.
Yep.
And talk about, are we too early to talk about TC1? I don't think we are really.
No, I'll put it in the. So it is early days. I'll disclaim that. But we launched together with Microsoft in this next generation of our partnership. We launched the Trimble Construction Cloud on Azure. It's an industry cloud for construction. I would describe it as three main things. One, capabilities. It includes think like discrete capabilities in the cloud. For example, if you wanted to do, I don't know, feature extraction or something like that, and you didn't want to fire up a Trimble product in order to do that, that discrete capability would be in the cloud for folks to use, right? So that's what I mean by capabilities. We launched a live sharing capability where last fall, I think, where a civil engineer, a structural engineer, a project manager, and an owner can all collaborate on the same model live, right, on Azure. That's a capability in the Trimble Construction Cloud today. The Trimble Construction Cloud also supports workflows, which I think was the spirit of her question. So first and foremost, it connects our products like Viewpoint for projects, and then the idea is that we bridge workflows, repeatable workflows or whatnot for our customers. And then it's all wrapped with open API SDK and a developer program so that it can be extended to do, for that last mile, last kilometer solution to do what our customers needed to do in the end, because Trimble and Microsoft can't solve all problems in the world. We can do the 80%, but then we leave it open for others, third-party developers, partners, enterprising customers, to extend something like this. So I think her question was in the spirit of workflows, and yeah, absolutely. The future is that Viewpoint for projects, is connected through our industry cloud for construction to other Trimble products or capabilities or the data in the that's what I forget. The other thing is it's also the host of the connected data environment to bridge workflows.
Yeah, I think you'll see this more and more as time goes by.
Exactly, it's early days, yeah.
Yeah, but what I would say is that again, this is a multi-level thing. So we have many internal Trimble softwares that we are beginning to make work together. Mm-hmm. We've also got we support very widely a lot of the open standards for industry as a whole to collaborate, and we are partnering both internally and externally with other software houses to provide a more seamless flow of information between products.
Yeah, I'd probably be remiss to say that our strategy, which goes back to the strategic pivot, goes back to 2020. It's called Connect and Scale, and Connect and Scale means something to us Trimblers. But by connect, we mean connecting our various products that we've either built or acquired or accumulated over the years. So connecting them, but also connecting capabilities, workflows, and data, right, in this connected data environment. That's what we mean by connect. So let's bring it all together now for the benefit of our customers. And then on the scale side, we are a global business, and everything we do, we think about scaling it globally, basically. So connect and scale is our strategy. We're also working on our own kind of digital transformation to make ourselves easier to do business with for you, and easier to discover and understand all these things that we're talking about today. So connect and scale is the new newish customer-driven strategy that we're working on hard. And Microsoft's a big part of that strategy. We partnered with one of the biggest digital partners in the world to help accelerate, as an accelerant to all this.
So here's a question which is quite UK specific. It's from Christine Brown from Wiltshire County Council. And she says, to what extent is the implementation of the Building Safety Act in the UK driving people's thinking? Can I maybe just jump in and answer that quite specific UK type question?
Please.
The answer is driving our thinking.
Our accents would give us away. We tried to.
It's driving our thinking pretty hard in the UK, and it does form part of this bigger issue. But specifically, when there is now a lot more to control and capture within your digital systems. Certainly within Viewpoint for Projects and FieldView and our other product, we are thinking about that very carefully. And it's not, I have to say, not just the Building Safety Act, but also things like Part L of the building regs as well, which are now requiring a lot more to be recorded and captured in terms of sustainability and so on. So it's again a multifaceted set of problems that we are thinking about very carefully and trying to address. But what I would say is this can be writ large across the entire world, with the requirement to capture more and more data and to have that golden thread of information. Anything to add sort of internationally on that?
The only thing I'll say is that it points right back to the strategic importance of being open and extensible, because just like this act in the UK, there might be a different one in the Netherlands and a different one in Singapore. And we have to have a platform that's open where these problems can be solved locally, and we're not trying to solve them from Colorado in the US, or Anthony, I think you're in DC or something like that. They need to be solved locally. So it points back to the importance of open and extensible platforms, which is a philosophy for both Trimble and Microsoft.
So I regret to say there are more questions, but I regret to say that we are now out of time. What I would say is that we will circulate any further questions and get back to those who've asked them, if possible, through email or other mechanism. I would just like particularly to thank Tim and Anthony and Christopher for coming on and talking about some of these high-level issues rather than the sort of specific software-related issues. And I've certainly found it interesting, and I hope everybody listening has as well.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Thanks, Anthony and Tim. I appreciate you guys joining us today.
Listen, thank you guys. Thank you, Trimble, for the amazing partnership, and look forward to continuing to work with you guys in supporting this industry and the customers around the world.
Brilliant. Thank you all so much. Really, really appreciate your expertise. And I would like to reiterate Ben's thanks, but also extend them to him because he facilitated a really wonderful discussion that I was lucky enough to listen into. Also, a huge thank you to our audience for sending all those questions through. There were some really great ones there. So we're really appreciative for you getting involved today. Finally, thank you to Trimble from our side. We always love working with you on these projects, so that's really great. And just a reminder for our audience, yes, it's available on demand. Give us 60 minutes to get it all processed and back up online, and it should be accessible via the same link you've joined today. That's it from me, so thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.